Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Keron Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And as usual, it is your boy, Mr. Rose. DJ, you know what to do. You gotta fade us all the way out. You gotta fade us out, DJ, because we gotta talk to the people. How is everybody in the Digipreneur family doing today? It is June 26th, 2024, and this is episode number 166. Always got to check. Sometimes I be forgetting. Yeah, episode number 166. Ah, boy. I hope you guys, it's a Wednesday, it's a hump day, so I hope, the first 2 days of this week have been good to you. I hope it's been good to you. It's been quite a ride over on this side. The past couple pieces of content that I have put out were in respects to this digital nomad lifestyle. And, you never really know what is going to be that piece of content that hits home and really resonates until you drop it and then you realize, oh, shoot, we've opened a can of worms. This is a topic where a lot of people are interested in. And since I did now you have to keep in mind, when I do content, remember, I'm always focused on the multiple formats, right? Because everybody consumes their content differently and the content is going to show up differently. So when I do a podcast, we got the podcast family that loves listening to their podcasts whilst they're at work, they're driving, they're in the gym, you know how you guys do it. And then you have the people that prefer to read the content, whether it be, the articles in the papers or whether it be on the blog. And then, we have social media. So we got the video content or any of the other content pieces that we produce. And, so I did the pieces of content surrounding is it time to migrate, even if temporarily, right? And then right before that, we also had the digital nomad visa breakdown, the article that had all the lists of different countries with the digital nomad visas. And I just want to put this out there that you don't have to specifically get the digital nomad visa to be a digital nomad. There's tons of different visa options for each country, and they all have their own different requirements, pros, cons, that type of thing, right? Being a digital nomad is more about your lifestyle, but also the state of mind. It's a mindset as well, all right? So again, you don't have to have the digital nomad visa to be a digital nomad. There are other ways to be a digital nomad, and you could leverage any of the visas that make sense for the country that you are going to be visiting, all right? So in putting out those pieces of content, the online discussions and the offline discussions have really, really, really been interesting. And I want to share, just some of the messages I've received. I won't say anybody's names, obviously, but I just want to say some of the messages I've received because, again, it's really been interesting, right? So let me pull up one. Where is it? All right, here's one. So I got a message from an individual after listening to the podcast, right? And they sent me a message and it said, yo, wish you the best of luck in your relocation, even if temporarily. I don't know if I fully said I would be relocating. I said I'd be looking into it though. But nonetheless, wish you the best in relocation, even if temporarily, to grow your brand outside of the Caribbean. I was born and raised in Barbados and went to UWI in Trinidad, but had to make the hard decision to leave the region 18 years ago, as there was just no scope there for me in my field. I am currently a vice president of logistics here in Canada. I love the region and I will retire there, but one has to grow. No way I could realize my current opportunities back in Barbados or in the region. And the saddest part is there is almost zero interest in really improving. I thought that was very telling, right? I got another message, and that message says, yo, bro, you hit the nail on the head in your last podcast. I am bored so much in tech. I'm bored. So much in tech has changed in the last 2 years, and I'm literally begging to work on it, but to no avail. All right? Let me see. What else do we got here? What else do we got? I want to read one more. And that one is, there we go. Good evening. I just listened to your podcast on migration and I had to drop a message. As someone who has invested heavily in acquiring skills, I absolutely feel as though I have wasted my time educating myself. I feel stifled and often bored. I feel sorry that I've returned here. So your podcast captured exactly how I feel, and you are correct. There is no desire to change the way in which the country is managed. Even down to what you spoke about at DirecTV, I'm challenged to develop content for continuous learning and institutional knowledge. It is really frustrating. I believe that in Trinidad, we are manufacturing brain drain because of how we society is systematically managed. Whew. And those are just 3 of my DMs, right? I got maybe about 25 messages in regards to the last 2 podcasts and just the offline conversations that I've been having. My goodness. I really believe that we have hit a point where the best of us are realizing that unless there is a major scrapping of the entire system and we rebuild from scratch, there is no way forward because we keep on, I can't even say we keep on trying to make like patchwork efforts to just tie us over. We're just not doing what needs to be done. And that's just the reality. But again, we have some challenges, and I don't think that the leadership of TNT, and for the majority of the region, I don't think the leadership is the right people in charge to lead the way, right? Now, I will say this. I've been in Trinidad 10 years, and I think it became apparent maybe by somewhere between year 2 and year 4, somewhere there. It became apparent that the only way the entire Caribbean region is going to progress is if we can bring back our human capital that has left. Because here's the reality. The reality is the best Caribbean people do not live in the Caribbean. And I don't want anybody that's living here to feel slighted or jaded by that comment, but it's the truth. And let me put it to you like this. When you do well in the Caribbean, right? If you do academically well, and you're bright and you're smart, or you do amazing in sports, the first thing that comes knocking is the universities from around the world offering you a scholarship. Okay? They offer you a scholarship to bring your athletic ass or your smart ass over to their country, because they understand that, we need to get these people in to help build our society. So they give you the scholarship, you go through university, doing whatever you do, and then chances are you end up either in a job or you end up in whatever sports or, whatever you got your scholarship for. You end up in that and you stay in those countries long term, rarely to ever return. Right? So the best Caribbean people are busy building up the outside world. Even when you look at a lot of our, musical talent, because the Caribbean region is big on music, especially out of Jamaica. How many of the super successful artists are still living in Jamaica? Best you're gonna get is they maintain a house in Jamaica, but they've predominantly moved on. All right. And I had gone through the article with you guys last week, coming from the UN, talking about the brain drain, the aging, the slow growth facing Caribbean populations. So the best people are outside, busy building up everywhere else. And it's not until we can bring back that talent or we start to leverage our partnerships with the migrant population to help build up the Caribbean. Neither of which is happening. And the reason why I say, I think you have to bring back the talent, even though I place leveraging the partnerships as number two. The reason why I say you have to bring back that talent is because until I moved here, I did not understand what we were up against. And when you live abroad, at some point in time, you're focused on everything else happening in the outside world, that you lose touch with what's happening on the ground back in your home country. So you can't create a real solution or really understand what is happening because you're just not here. And again, that's no shade to anybody on the outside, right? That's just what it is. If you spend enough time outside, you lose touch with what is happening. Again, I'm from Toronto, right? I've been in Trinidad 10 years. There's a lot that has changed that I don't know about because I've been here. Worried about the Caribbean. I haven't been looking back at, what's happening in Toronto, what's happening in Canada. There are some things that I completely understand, and I keep abreast enough to be in the know about certain things. But the reality is that if I wanted to solve a real problems for people back home in Toronto, I'm going to have to immerse myself in Toronto, learning all the ins and outs, the tools, this, that, and the third. There are things I can definitely help with from here. But I'm not going to be, I'm not going to have that nuanced understanding of what really needs to be done. Like, I'm here and I know, all of the loopholes and back doors and roundabout ways to get things done to help people in a variety of situations, right? It's not the same for when I have to deal with people back in Toronto. There's general things that I can do. But it just is what it is, right? So I really believe that we have to bring back the human talent. But here's the other thing, right? Here's the other thing. Here's the other reason why I say we have to bring back people is because, as I said in the last episode, there is a lack of a global perspective and mindset, right? And people living on the outside, talking to people here, there is a gap. There's a major gap. If you can't strive to build a society that you have never been a part of or seen. That's just what it is. You can't want better for yourself if you don't know what better looks like. You can't want better for yourself if you've never been a part and seen the internal workings of, oh, that's how they get things done. You might just, see it on TV or hear about it, but you don't know what it takes to build and do better if you've never really been a part of it. So when people living on the outside are still trying to help people here, there's that disconnect because you're now coming with all of this new information and what could be done, but you're also not speaking to people who really understand what you're talking about because they've never been a part of it. There is that gap, which is one of the major reasons why, like, whenever I see international speakers come from different parts of the world, we're talking outside of the Caribbean, when they come, I quickly realize, okay, this all sounds good if I lived in your country. Because when you have lived outside long enough, your brain automatically starts to discern between, okay, what we can actually take and put here, or, hey, even though this is great information, I can't execute on any of it because the rules and regulations or even the tools and the mechanisms to do what you're talking about are either non-existent or they're so vastly different that makes this conversation, relatively useless because I can't do anything with it, right? So bringing back people here will get the people that have all the experience and know what it takes to push things forward, bringing them back here to mix amongst the population. Knowledge transfer can really happen better, and it's also going to give them a much better understanding of the problems that we are facing and what's available to us and what we need to do. And we need to have, that mix and mingling on a personal level. So we got to bring them back here. People here, people in the Caribbean do an amazing job at problem identification. They just don't have the solutions, all right? And the people outside, they don't fully grasp what the problems are, but they have solutions. So together, working together, a lot can be done. But again, I believe that has to be done by people living here. Like, they have to come and live here. But there's no incentive for people to leave what they're doing around the world and come back and live here. And that's why it just doesn't happen. There's no incentive to do that. The ecosystem is not there. The job opportunities are not there. The money opportunities are not there to pay them what they are worth, right? So all of those things are roadblocks as to why that's not going to happen. And again, we could be leveraging partnerships, and that to me is the second best solution. How do we start to now tap into the diaspora so that the diaspora has, some skin in the game and it can help? But more often than not, even that, like I said, they don't fully grasp. You don't fully grasp the problem when you don't live here. So if you don't fully grasp the problem, you can't really provide much of a solution, right? Might be some solution to some of the more easier, low-hanging fruit problems. I'm not saying no, but to really make a change, I don't think it happens until we can bring back our diaspora in a larger capacity to help really build up of our societies. Heck, I personally believe that we probably have an amazing prime minister in Trinidad that's probably busy building up Finland or Sweden. You know what I mean? Like, I really believe our best leadership is not here. I believe our best leadership is not here. I believe our best leadership is busy building some other country. And if we were to bring them back, they might be the absolute best thing that we need. But again, how to bring them back. I said all that to say that today's episode, I wanted to talk about digital nomad careers and skill sets and places where you could potentially land jobs or even get clients, because all that conversation that I was talking about has led to more people saying, yo, you've planted a seed and I am ready and I am more open to even temporary migration so that I can expand my horizons, right? Again, people want to come back home. People want to be here, and I love that. People want to be here because even me coming to Trinidad, I never thought I'd be living anywhere else. I thought that was it. I've always wanted to live in the Caribbean. I might not live in Trinidad, but I've always known I wanted to live in the Caribbean, right? But collectively, Caribbean-wide, we have a lot of issues that we got to solve. So, anyways, let's talk about skills, right? If you want to go and live in another country, it's getting to be a lot easier now with all of the visa programs that are available. And I spoke about that last episode. But then the number one question is, all right, so I can get over there, but then what do I do when I get there? How am I going to earn? All right. So let's dive in. There's two avenues that we could look at. One, if you were looking at trying to work in another country, that's going to be a harder road because now you got to go and look for work in that country. And then you got to go through the whole process of work permits and that type of thing. But what you can start to do is you can start to look at the countries that you would like to work in and look at, the various jobs in your field, and you can start applying from here. A lot of these companies are looking for people, and they are willing to help you with relocation and work permits. I've been looking at jobs at Singapore Airlines, Qatar Airlines, Emirates, and a couple other places, Hawaiian Airlines, and almost all of those roles were willing to help you with the work permits. Now, the majority of them were not going to pay for your relocation, but they were at least going to help you with the work permits, right? So start looking for them. I was on the United Nations website, the career section, over the past couple of days, and there was about 5 or 6 jobs that I applied to with the UN. And again, they're placing you. They operate all over the world, right? If they need someone specifically from that country, they actually will specify, hey, this job is available only for nationals of this country. They do have that, right? But I was able to apply to about 5 or 6 jobs that did not have that limitation of only being available from that country. So my first thing would be, to just start job hunting online. Look at the countries that you want to go to. Look at the fields that you want to get into. Start getting on the job boards of a variety of companies. And start applying. Start applying from all now. Get on LinkedIn. Find the companies that you would like to work for abroad. After researching them, go and find people in those respective departments that could potentially connect you with the right people. But then also follow the company pages because they're going to be posting their job postings on there as well. So you can connect with the staff, and then you could also follow them to see what their job postings are so that, again, you could apply. So that's one way. That's one avenue. The next thing I believe everybody should start doing, right? Because what happens is that people start working in jobs for so long that they also forget about what skills they have picked up, or they don't even think about, can I do this job remotely, right? Again, we're so conditioned to one type of work type in the Caribbean, which is, full-time employment and physically being there, that we don't realize there's a variety of different work formats, right? So what you could do is you can go to Fiverr.com, Fiverr, Fiverr.com, or freelancer.com, or any one of those platforms, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to type in your industry into the search bar, right? You're going to type in your industry into the search bar. So let's just say if I say accounting, right? If I put accounting or accountant into the search bar, what you're going to see is you're going to see all of the results pop up for people within your space. But what I want you to make note of is a couple of things. If I was an accountant, I am looking for what types of services are these people offering. Remember, everybody in Fiverr is working remote, right? So if you have that skill set, if you're an accountant, but again, you're thinking to yourself, I don't think I could be an accountant remotely. What you're doing is you're looking at the types of services that people are offering because these are all remote, right? Remember, you could be a Canadian accountant. Doesn't mean you have to physically be there, right? You could be living in friggin' Bangkok or friggin' Singapore or Africa, wherever. It doesn't matter where you live, right? And still be an accountant to those people in Canada. So what you want to do is look to see what are the types of services that people are offering and also not offering, because now you have an idea as to what services you could do and offer remotely. All right. So you're looking to see what are they offering and what are they not offering that you could potentially add to your mix that probably will set you apart from everybody else. And at least you know, hey, these are things I could offer remotely and do. All right. You can also add yourself to these platforms. You can get yourself on a Fiverr, Freelancer, any one of the other freelancing platforms, right? You can start to build your own practice, your own remote practice, and you can get clients from social media. You can get clients from LinkedIn, right? But again, you're looking at this from the perspective of learning what you can offer remotely. Looking at what you can offer remotely. And that's for the people who are in fields that feel like there's nothing I could potentially do remotely. Okay? After you do that, right? If you're somebody working in a job and you've done all of that, if you're somebody who might be looking for a career change, right? You might be looking for a career change, or you're looking at what types of skills or what new industries are really booming that are more tailored to remote working or working in the digital space. Some of the top industries or jobs right now in 2024 that are leaning heavily to the digital space, where you don't have to physically be there to do that, are one, software development and engineering. So you have programmers, web developers, software engineers. They are highly sought after, and companies embrace remote work for these technical roles because this allows companies to tap into the human resources from anywhere in the world without having to physically bring them in. Remember, when you have to pay for work permits and all that jazz, that's cost to the company, right? That's cost to the company. They might have to give you the benefits. They might have to pay taxes, like all of those things. So remote work allows them to skirt a lot of those things, but then they get to tap into the global talent pool rather than what's available to them physically, right? So software developers and engineers, programmers, web developers, those are some industries that you could start to look into. Again, this is great if you're looking for a career change, or maybe you're young and you're trying to figure out what I should be getting into, right? Next up, you have digital marketers and search engine optimization specialists. So people like SEOs, content marketers, social media management, email marketers, anything within the digital marketing space or the digital strategy space are in high demand. And again, you can do that from anywhere you have your computer and your internet connection. Content creation. So this includes things like writers, script writers, bloggers, podcasters, video creators, influencers who can produce content from anywhere. And the reality is you're probably better off learning how to be a digital nomad, because then it keeps your content interesting. It gives you new perspectives. You can create a wide variety of content that helps everybody, right? So it probably is, you're better off probably learning how to be a digital nomad if you are a content creator. Next up, you have graphic designers and UX UI designers. So designers who can create compelling visuals, user interfaces, and user experiences are essentials for brands and digital products. High demand. And I'll recommend some places to go and learn some of these things. I'll recommend some places for you to learn some of these skill sets at the end, right? Then we have, virtual assistants and admin support. You can do that from anywhere. So virtual assistants provide administrative, technical, or creative assistance to clients remotely, handling tasks like email management, scheduling, and customer support. Here's the beautiful thing, right? A job like that, if you were working in your home country, typically doesn't pay much. But even though you're getting paid a certain amount of money, when you're doing it in the country that you are living in, chances are the cost of living is much higher, so you really don't see any of that money, right? However, if you're getting paid $30,000 to $40,000 a year, that's nothing in the States. But you making $30,000, which is, essentially minimum wage, maybe even below minimum wage at this point, you making that, but living in Japan or living in Portugal or living in South America, living in Colombia, that money is going 10 times further in those countries than it would in the States. You have to keep in mind, we are so conditioned that we need a lot of money. And what we have to start to learn is that it's not that we need a lot of money to live and survive. We need a lot of money to live where we are living. And if you're living in a particular place that has a higher cost of living, then yes, you're going to need a lot of money to live there. And obviously that's it sounds so basic, like duh. Of course, we know you need to have a X amount of money to live where you are. But I say that to say it's something that we need to unlearn because it keeps people stuck in that same spot. When you're thinking about, I could never move because you're thinking, how am I going to earn, or I'm going to need a lot of money? No, you need a lot of money because of where you are at right now. But if you start making that mental shift, hey, maybe I could do customer service or admin support or be a VA. It might not make me money. I might be broke where I'm physically at right now. But if I were to do that and I were to go and move to a different country with a lower economy, this might actually work. I might be able to now get a way better quality of life doing something as basic as customer service or VA or admin support or what have you. You don't need as much money to survive in a lot of these other countries. And we have to learn that. That is the mindset shift that we have to have. Right? So, and again, I've been going through that as well. I mean, coming from Toronto, one of the first things I realized is, wow, I don't need to make as much money living in Trinidad as I did in Toronto. And now that the cost of living has gone up 100x in Canada, on paper, all of my friends, more than likely make a lot more money, but their bills are also expensive. It doesn't make sense if you earn $1 million a year, but your bills are $999,999. You know what I mean? Like if your expenses are $1 million and you earn $1 million, you're broke. So the goal now, the mindset shift that we have to have is, how can I earn X amount of money? But how can I then position myself in a place where the economy is better? That way I can live a better quality of life. And again, not everybody is going to do it, right? And that's great for them, but you don't have to be that person. Especially if you're in your 20s right now. Now is the best time to do it. Any time is a good time because even if you have kids, your kids also need to see a different country, a different culture as well. And that experience is probably going to shape them to be even better. All right? So there are people that are listening that think, I have kids. This is not something I can do. this is probably the best time for you to move, because chances are you could afford a better quality of life for your kids, and the experiences that they are going to get are going to be different. My daughter is 16. I keep on telling her, I'm like, yo, I gotta see the world with you. I gotta, I want to be in a position where she can come and experience something different, and then give her that option. If you want to stay in Canada, no problem. But hey, if you also want to come over here and see something else, I want to be that option. So if I move to South America, or I move to Asia or Africa or wherever the hell I move to, I at least want to be in a situation where she says, you know what, man, I'm not feeling Toronto no more. Hey, Dad, can I come live with you? Where in the world are you right now? And then you have options. You have options, and you can experience a different life. And now they can start to make some decisions for themselves. All right. So again, it's also good if you have kids to start thinking about, hey, where could I move to? Because they need that. They need to see that different culture as well, and especially when you're living in the Caribbean, where a lot of these kids are. Remember, the Caribbean is very small, right? The majority of the Caribbean people have not been exposed to much. You might think you've been exposed, but you really ain't been exposed. Even if you've traveled, you've gotten a taste, but living in another country is something else. So it's always good when you can move with your kids, they get to experience something else as well. Then we have online teaching and tutoring. Whatever your skill set is, you can teach it. All right? Not virtual assistants. So with the growth of online education, there is a strong demand for educators and tutors who can teach various subjects and skills virtually. And again, maybe you're not making enough money from your online stuff because of the country you're in, but that same money might go a lot further with you somewhere else. Again, it's a mindset shift that has to happen, right? Then we get into e-commerce. So if you're managing online stores, handling customer service, overseeing logistics for e-commerce businesses are viable options for digital nomads. Big industry getting into e-commerce. You also have consulting and coaching. So experts in fields like business, health, fitness, life coaching, therapy, you name it, right? You can do those things virtually as well. You can provide those services virtually. You don't have to physically be there with somebody. Yes, again, you can, and it's nice, but I'm saying that there are options to doing it, right? Data analysis and data science. So companies need professionals who can analyze data, generate insights, and make data-driven decisions. This is a role that is increasingly becoming more remote friendly. And again, it's becoming more remote friendly because people or companies are trying to tap into the global workforce. And it's also cheaper for them to start working with remote people because they don't have to pay the taxes. They don't have to offer benefits. They might even not have to pay out as much. But again, even if they're not paying out as much, which is a benefit to the company, if you're living in a country with a good cost of living, you don't even need to make as much money as you would have. So if I was living in Toronto, my Toronto prices would be very different than what I would charge in Trinidad because I simply don't need as much money. And that works, and that makes me more attractive to external people because again, they don't gotta pay as much. And even now, my costs have raised because I'm like, yo, the cost of living in Trinidad has raised. And, I still got to do what I got to do. So my thought process now is, okay, Trinidad is getting, more expensive because our entire economy is subsidized. Everything that we have in Trinidad is subsidized. And they're removing all the subsidies. So when they remove all the subsidies, cost of living might look like Jamaica, might look like Barbados, and them countries are expensive to live in. All right? When all them subsidies go away in TNT is going to be extremely expensive to live in. And it might not make sense for people to live here. If you're making good money, hey, no problem, right? But again, it's a mindset shift. So how can I earn my money and live in a country with a lower cost of living? And, and there's a lot of countries with lower costs of living and way better quality of life, right? So that's where that mindset shift has to happen. Then you're getting into project management. Now, this is always a good space to be in because remote project managers oversee projects, coordinate teams, and ensure that objectives are met within the timeline and budget. Can't go wrong with a project management job. Customer support and customer success. So remote customer service reps and customer success managers help companies retain customers and provide excellent service from anywhere in the world, right? So those are some of the in-demand jobs. Prompt engineering is another major one, right? Becoming a prompt engineer, learning how to use the AI, the large language models, the AI tools. That's becoming a big industry and skill set to learn. Then you have automation specialists. There are so many things that could be automated for companies. So if you can become an automation specialist, and then you're looking at companies' processes and how they do things, and you are now helping them build out their automation systems. Again, another big skill set to tap into. Now, what are some of the top remote working websites? And again, I'm just planting seeds. I want you guys to start doing your homework, right? But I'll give you guys 10 of the top platforms that you can register for, that you can start taking remote jobs that are available. So one, again, this is in no particular order, right? But you have JobsPresso. That's JobsPresso.co. JobsPresso. You have SimplyHired as another platform. AngelList. Virtual Vocations. Stack Overflow Jobs. You have RemoteOK. You have Dice.com. You have WorkingNomads.com. You have Fiverr. You have Upwork. You have Freelancer.com. You have Outsourcely.com. You have TopTal. 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 Skip the Drive. You have RemoteFreelance.com. You have RemoteGurus.com. Pangian. PANGIAN.com. You have RemoteOK.com. You have WeWorkRemotely.com. FlexJobs. Again, I'm just naming a few platforms so you guys can go and check out. And these are places that you can go and get remote jobs. Check and see what is being posted, and go and apply to see if you can pick up some jobs on those platforms as well. All right. Again, I'm planting seeds. There are tons of remote working platforms you guys can take full advantage of. And again, I'm talking about all of this because I myself am doing it, right? I myself am doing it. I have been working remote since 2019, right? Since 2019, I've been all remote, right in time for the pandemic. I still had, in 2019, no, I don't want to see, no, I'm going to pull it back. I was doing a lot of things remotely in 2019, but there was still a lot of my life that was pretty much hybrid. And then I had picked up a job working at Flow in 2019 for 6 months. But from the pandemic, so I'll safely say that from the pandemic, I have been 100% remote, right? And now, in 2024, the only thing I really do in person is if I get booked to speak or if I get booked to do workshops and, they want me to come in person, I'll come in person, right? But that affords me the ability to travel and go to different places and whatnot. So I have no problem with that, right? But I'm doing all of these things. I just signed, not even just signed. I've been working with clients remotely since the pandemic, right? And I'm constantly working on bringing in new clients or working with the right companies so I can do these things remotely, because the mindset shift is no longer work from home. The mindset shift that has to happen for you, because I had to go through it too, is you have to ask yourself the question of, how can I work from anywhere? how can I build my life so that I'm not physically tied to any one particular country? And these are questions that when you ask yourself, it's going to force you to answer the question, how can I build my life where I'm able to work not from home, but work from anywhere? What do I have to change? What skills do I have to acquire? What is keeping me tied to one particular location? Is it a mortgage? Is it a car? Is it pets? Is it kids? Like, you have to think about all of these things and then begin to construct your life to be able to say, yo, I can legitimately work from anywhere. And the more that these countries are continuing to, where the cost of living is continuing to raise. If you look at the UK, Canada, the US, 2023 has been the largest number of reverse immigrants, people who have came and said, yeah, this ain't it, and gone, and even citizens who have left their home countries. 2023 was the largest amount of people that have left those three countries, which are considered, the pinnacle countries. They've left and they've gone elsewhere. And it's because more people are trying to figure out, how can I live in a economy that is better serving for me, where I can get a better quality of life, where I can still earn pounds or earn the US dollars, but live somewhere else. Man, I'm even seeing there are companies offering housing subscriptions. So rather than you taking out a mortgage, because listen, you buy a house, and the reality is, it's not just the mortgage you're paying for. Houses are extremely cash intensive. All right. And this is not an argument. I won't even dive in deep into that, but housing is extremely cash intensive. I'm of the belief, I'm following the people like the Grant Cardones of the world, where I don't believe a house is a investment. I believe it's more of a liability. Unless it is that you're buying properties and renting it out and it's earning you cash flow. That's the only time, to me, a house is an asset. But when you are renting, right? When you are renting, you can save more money, bank more money. You only pay that one fee, and at the end of the day, anything else that happens or has to be fixed doesn't come out of your pocket. So there are subscription services for housing that has come out over the last 2 years, where you can pay, and again, this is how it works. Essentially, you pay one flat fee. So that flat, and there's different tiers depending on what you want. But one of the services that I seen was, you're paying a flat fee of like $900 US, and they have 30 countries that you have access to, where they have all of these housing in their network within that 30 country list. So rather than you paying, and again, this might make more sense for a particular type of people, but I'm only bringing this up because I'm just showing you where the mindset shift of the world is going. So you're paying this one fee. You're paying your 800, your 900 US or whatever. You have access to 30 countries. So you could now say, all right, that's my rent. And now, with all of these new visa options available all over the world, I can now decide, hey, I'm going to do 2 months in Portugal. I'm going to do 2 months in Nigeria. I'm going to do 2 months in Japan. And you can play around with hopping all over the world. Now, again, you got to figure out your lifestyle. There are those that want to experience the world. Just talking to one of my boys, and him and his fiance are traveling the world together, and they're spending more and more time traveling and seeing the world. And I thought what was so interesting about the conversation is because one thing he said to me was, we're trying to figure out where we want to live. And you can't figure that out without living in these countries. I believe we are starting to realize, and again, there's other people I'm having these same conversations with. I think more people are starting to realize we don't know where we want to live. how can you settle down? How can you say you want to settle down in one country when you have no idea if this is even the right move? It made sense before. It made sense for our parents and our grandparents and all those that came before us. It made sense for them. It was a completely different time. But how do I know that living in Canada or the States is the best option for me? You're just looking around and you're saying to yourself, man, I can't afford half this stuff. It doesn't make sense. The quality of life, you don't even know what is a good quality of life if you haven't lived somewhere else. I'm blessed enough that this is country number 2 for me, right? I'm blessed enough that I have been able to live in my second country. So now I could say, Canada was great. I'm so happy that I lived in Canada for 20 years. I grew up, I spent my whole life in Canada. I'm so grateful that I was able to spend 10 years in Trinidad and living in the Caribbean because I got to see what it's like. And there's so much to love. But then there's so many things that have to be fixed that it bothers me that it's not going to get fixed anytime soon. Like, I don't even know if we will fix the real issues in the Caribbean in my lifetime. I don't know that, right? But it doesn't feel like that right now. And as I'm 37 now, the things I want out of my life now and heading into the next stages, I gotta work on those things now. And as of right now at 37, I don't see how I can get what I want living in Trinidad. What I want isn't in Trinidad. But again, the mindset shift has to happen, right? I am now at a point in my life where I've already made one big move. Now I'm willing to say, all right, Trinidad was amazing. Now let me see, what is that next? What do I need for the next stages of my life? And where am I going to get it? And now I'm willing to say, all right, cool. I'm going to go here. And again, I don't know where I want to settle. I don't know. And I won't know until I move about for a bit. So I might spend the next year, 2 years in a variety of different places. 2 months here, 3 months here, that type of vibe. I won't know. Maybe 8 months in I realize, oh, shoot, I want to settle right. I don't know. But again, you're not going to know where you want to settle or what you want out of life without traveling. And too many of us, because it's home, we're settling right then and there, and we're not getting the best out of our lives. And I'm not here to, downplay you. Home is home, right? Home is home. I understand that. But we don't know what a good quality of life is, and there's so many things that are going wrong in the places that we call home that now might be a good time to say, man, home is wherever I hang my hat. Let me start to explore where home is going to be. Because home might not necessarily need to be your home country. Will I visit Trinidad? Of course. Listen, I think the happiest people in Trinidad are the people that visit Trinidad. Because you don't have to deal with any of the stuff that living in Trinidad comes with. Right? Just for the simple fact that, we have so many limitations on access to money. It forces me to want to get out of the system of Trinidad. That way I don't have the limitations of money where my bank cards don't work out of Trinidad. I have a limited amount of access to U.S. to purchase anything outside of Trinidad. That to me drives me up a wall that nobody, I can't express. I don't want to say nobody can understand. I just can't express how much that bothers me. Okay? So you got to really get that mindset shift. It's not going to happen overnight. But you got to ask yourself, how can I work from anywhere? What do I want out of my life? When you start to ask those questions and you start to do your research and you start to now, put your ideas on paper or your digital notepad, however you want to do your thing, you'll start to realize this thing is very possible. You can make these moves. You can make these changes, and you're going to be much better for it. You can always come back home, right? You could always come back home. But you're not going to appreciate home until you've left. And you're not going to get the best quality of life for you without exploring. And you don't know where you really want to settle until you have spent, not just traveled, but you have spent time living in other places. And I really believe, shout outs to my boy and his fiance, again, just that one saying, hey, we're trying to figure out where we want to live. So we know that we're going to spend the next year, 2 years living in different places so we can figure out where we want to live. And they're both my age. They're both pushing 40. Right? That's a very good time to start thinking about what does that next stage of your life look like. And I'm having these conversations because the reality is we're not really having these conversations publicly in the Caribbean and certainly not in Trinidad. So if I can plant these seeds and use my platform to plant these seeds and take you along the journey with me and share some of the sites and some of the platforms and just, some of the strategies I'm using for my own self, share that with you, I know it's going to help some people because I'm already seeing the conversations and it's already, doing some good. So for you, ask yourself that question. What do I need to do to work from anywhere? Because that now is going to open you up to more possibilities. If you ask yourself, what do I got to do to work in that specific country? You're going to be limited. But if you ask yourself, how can I work from anywhere? It opens up even more possibilities, and then you're going to start to now acquire the skills that allow you to work from anywhere. And for me, I've asked myself that question, and I've been so conscious of creating a life that now will allow me to work from anywhere. And I'm still asking myself questions, right? And it's going to force me to answer them. Tony Robbins said that what separates the most successful people from the rest of the pack is successful people are the sum of the questions they ask themselves. A Usain Bolt once probably asked himself, how can I run sub 10 seconds? Beats 10 seconds. How could I run sub 9.5 seconds? Again, you ask yourself these questions and then you start to figure out how to go about executing it and then doing it. So that's it for me today. How do we become digital nomads? How are we able to work from anywhere? How are we able to now travel and settle anywhere? Ask yourself those questions. And I really believe everybody is going to be better for it. So if you live 5 years in Japan and you come back, you're going to be a whole different person, better equipped to help people right here in the Caribbean. Okay? I'll be taking you on my journey with me, because I do plan. I plan by, and usually I don't like to say my plans out loud, but I've said at the beginning of the year that I've come to this feeling that 2024 is my last year in Trinidad. And now that we approach July, that feeling has only grown so much stronger to the point where, for the past month, especially after coming back from Colombia, I know that the next leg of my life won't be in Trinidad. I'm not saying I would never come back. Heck, I might only be gone a year outside, 2 years outside. Who knows? But I know that I have to go and put myself in a different situation. There's more growing to do. There's more to see. I got to become better, a better person, a better human, a better citizen, a better father, a better brother, a better everything. All right? And getting outside, seeing different cultures, is going to force me to upskill in all aspects of my life, both personally and professionally. I did it once. I am so much better for it. I'm ready for that challenge again. All right? And I'm putting all of this out there so that you who are listening, who you have that feeling like, man, this ain't it. Many of you have never left or never lived anywhere else. And I just want to say that you can give yourself permission to say, hey, friends, family, I love y'all, but I gotta go. You can always come back. Okay? So that's it for me. All right? I've hit my 1 hour mark. I'd like to do anything more than an hour. Anyway, that's it for me. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate the podcast. The ratings continue to help grow the Digipreneur family all over the world. And if you really enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to drop a review. Remember, people always read the reviews when trying to figure out whether or not to listen to the podcast, right? So drop a review. I don't ask for much, but the reviews will definitely help. So drop a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatnot, right? If you want to continue following me in the journey, don't forget you guys can follow me over on social media at KeronRose across all social media platforms. I'm most active on LinkedIn, Instagram stories, and I got to get back active on TikTok. You can check out the KeronRose.com website. Link to that in the show notes. Learn more about building your digital presence and monetizing your platforms. And don't forget, you guys can check out the Digipreneur FM website to stay up to date on all things happening with the podcast. Happy Hump Day. I will see you guys in the next episode. And take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Keron Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Keron Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.